The laughter cut through the morning air like glass shattering against concrete, sharp, cruel, and impossible to ignore. It wasn't just a laugh, it was a verdict. A dismissal. A declaration that some people simply didn't belong. Ayaan Malik froze mid-step, his hand still resting on the dented hood of his rusty old car, as the polished black luxury vehicles rolled into the corporate parking lot around him like silent judges. His car, faded and trembling with age, looked like a relic from another time, standing awkwardly among machines that gleamed like they had never known struggle. And then came her voice, cool, controlled, and laced with mockery. Security really needs to start filtering who gets in here. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that appearances can be deceiving, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes the Stories. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. The morning sun hung high, bathing everything in a bright, unforgiving light that seemed to expose every scratch, every imperfection, including Ayaan's life. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not by their standards. Not by the standards of someone like Zara Qureshi, the CEO whose empire stretched across cities, whose name was synonymous with power, precision, and perfection. Ayaan lowered his gaze, not out of shame, but out of exhaustion. He had long stopped reacting to moments like this. Life had a way of teaching you when silence was stronger than words. He wore a simple, neatly pressed shirt, though the cuffs had begun to fray. His shoes were polished, but worn thin. Everything about him carried the quiet dignity of someone who tried, every single day, despite everything. He wasn't just a man. He was a father. A single father. Back home, in a modest apartment that smelled faintly of detergent and hope, his 6-year-old daughter, Meher, had hugged him tightly that morning before school. Her small hands had clung to him as if he were the only stable thing in a shifting world. "Baba, will the car work today?" she had asked with innocent concern. "It always does," he had replied, smiling with a confidence he didn't fully feel. Because the truth was, the car barely held together. It coughed more than it roared. It rattled more than it ran. But it was all he had left of a life that once felt whole. Zara stepped closer now, her heels clicking against the pavement like a ticking clock counting down his dignity. She didn't see the man, only the machine. Only the rust. Only what she believed was failure. "You're blocking the executive parking space," she said flatly, barely sparing him a full glance. Ayaan nodded and quietly moved to push the car aside. The engine had stalled again, refusing to cooperate. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, frustration flickering across his face for a brief second before he masked it. Around him, employees whispered. Some smirked. Others looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. In a world driven by status, compassion often came second. But none of them knew the story behind that car. None of them knew that years ago, Ayaan had been a rising mechanical engineer, full of ambition and promise. He had worked under one of the finest automotive restoration experts in the country, learning the art of breathing life back into forgotten machines. It wasn't just work, it was passion. Then life had shifted. His wife fell ill. Hospital bills piled up. Dreams were replaced with survival. Nights once spent sketching engine designs turned into nights sitting beside a hospital bed, holding a hand that grew weaker with each passing day. And when she was gone, everything else followed. The job. The connections. The stability. All that remained was his daughter, and the car. The same car he had once painstakingly restored alongside his mentor, a man who believed that machines carried souls if you treated them with enough respect. That car was not just metal. It was memory. It was love. It was the last piece of a life that had been ripped away too soon. Zara turned to walk away, clearly done with the inconvenience. But something made her pause. Maybe it was the way Ayaan refused to argue. Maybe it was the strange contrast between the man's quiet composure and the broken vehicle he stood beside. Or maybe it was fate. Open the hood, she said suddenly, her tone shifting just slightly. Ayaan hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of protectiveness. That engine was the heart of everything he had left. Still, he complied. The hood creaked open, revealing an engine that, despite the car's outward decay, was meticulously maintained. Every component was clean, aligned, cared for with a level of attention that didn't match the rest of the vehicle. Zara leaned in, her expression changing from indifference to curiosity. And then, she saw it. A signature. Subtle. Elegant. Etched into the metal with precision. Her breath caught, not dramatically, but enough to break her composure. Because it wasn't just any signature. It was Enzo Ferrari's. The world seemed to slow. The whispers around them faded. The sunlight suddenly felt different, softer, almost reverent. Zara straightened, her eyes fixed on Ayaan now, not as a nuisance, but as a mystery. How did you get this? She asked, her voice no longer sharp, but uncertain. Ayaan looked at the engine for a moment before answering, his gaze filled with something deeper than pride. It was a project, he said quietly. Years ago. My mentor, he had connections. We restored a rare engine model that was later reviewed at an international exhibition. That signature was added there. He paused, then added, it was never meant to stay with me. But, life had other plans. Zara's mind raced. She had spent years building an empire in the automotive industry, attending elite auctions, negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. She understood value. She understood rarity. And what stood in front of her was something priceless, hidden beneath rust. Much like the man himself. For the first time, she truly looked at him. Not his clothes. Not his car. Him. And what she saw unsettled her. Because beneath the exhaustion, beneath the quiet demeanor, was strength. Skill. A story she had completely misjudged. I made a mistake, she said, the words unfamiliar on her tongue. Ayaan didn't respond immediately. Not because he was offended, but because he wasn't expecting it. Apologies, in his experience, were rare. Especially from people like her. Days passed, but something had shifted. Zara couldn't shake the image of that engine. Or the man who had preserved it with such care despite everything life had taken from him. She began asking questions. Quietly. Carefully. And what she learned humbled her. Ayaan wasn't just a struggling father with a broken car. He was a gifted engineer who had been pushed out of the industry by circumstances, not lack of talent. He had taken small repair jobs, worked odd hours, done whatever it took to provide for his daughter. Never complaining. Never asking for help. Just surviving. But survival wasn't enough. Not anymore. One afternoon, under the same bright daylight that had once exposed his struggles, Zara found herself standing outside his modest repair workshop, a small, worn-down space filled with tools that had seen better days. Ayaan looked up as she entered, surprised but composed. This time, there was no laughter. No judgment. Only silence, and possibility. I want to offer you something, Zara said. Not charity. Not pity. Opportunity. She proposed a position, leading a specialized restoration division within her company. A role that would allow him to do what he loved, to rebuild not just machines, but his life. At first, Ayaan hesitated. Because accepting meant trusting. And trust had not been kind to him before. But then he thought of Meher. Of her small hands. Of her question that morning. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine something more than just getting by. He accepted. What followed wasn't an overnight transformation. It was gradual. Real. Earned. Ayaan worked tirelessly, bringing life back into forgotten engines, earning respect not through status, but through skill. His division grew, attracting attention from collectors and enthusiasts across the country. And Zara? She changed too. She listened more. Judged less. Because sometimes, it takes a single moment of realization to rewrite the way you see the world. Months later, the same parking lot told a different story. Ayaan's car was still there. Still rusty. Still imperfect. But now, it stood not as a symbol of failure, but as a reminder. Of where he started. Of what he endured. And of how easily people can be misunderstood. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness matters more than appearances. And before we end, here's a special request. Comment the word respect if you believe every person deserves to be seen for who they truly are. Because sometimes, the greatest value isn't in what we see on the surface. It's in the stories hidden underneath. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment to finally see them.